had at doing this this evening. Good evening. We are only a minute early. Mr. Coleman is with me, the rubbish mechanic. People have been asking for a long time when we're going to be doing another live stream, and well, here we are doing one. Can't see anybody who's sort of come on yet, but we will just have it so that those of you who will be catching up later, I suspect some of you will be, have something to watch. Obviously, ignore the fact that the computer was, sorry, the screen was the wrong way around initially. I don't know what happened there. Mr. Coleman very kindly pointed it out to me, so we have managed to adjust it. So this evening we're going to be talking about Tweed Jacket Reviews. I've actually looked on the list and there are 68 episodes of Tweed Jacket Reviews. That's actually more than I thought. Back in the early days of the channel, it was the only format of review for over a year, and that was all there was. It was all so we didn't make actually tons and tons and tons of videos really, because we had to do it that way. Obviously, after a while, we introduced no budget reviews, which have been phenomenally popular actually. They've been much more popular than Tweed Jacket Reviews ever were. Yeah. There's loads and loads of those. Obviously, Mr. Coleman's cars have been on virtually all the formats. We've had some quite bad cars, some we can't even talk about. Some of them are totally hilarious. Yep. The Citroen C3 is one of my absolute favourites. That was quite something really. Right, we'll get to the pause this because that's not running particularly well on here. So I'm just have a look at some of the comments that have come in so far. If I can actually get this to work. There we go. Right, we'll bring the comments tab up if I can actually find it. It's normally there, isn't it? Where is it? What a terrible live stream, already it is. Yeah, normally the comments tab is sort of here. Oh, there we go. It's actually appeared now. Right. Okay. Excellent. We're a little bit behind on here, but it should work sort of all right. Paulie Gertis says, "Good evening, gentlemen." Good evening, sir. ST says, "Hello, gents. Looking forward to the Red 309 review." Yeah, it's in the queue somewhere. I mean, that was recorded earlier this month, actually quite near here, and it was good. It's just that's in the queue behind everything else. Yeah. Jova R says, "Good morning from the US." Good morning to you as well, sir. Let's just see here. So we have this up, and I need on this have a look at my list of all the sort of things that we've been doing. So we started off in September 2018 with 2 episodes of Tweed Jacket Reviews. Yeah. This is long before I even knew Mr. Coleman. Yeah. I did know Mr. Franks. I've known Mr. Franks for years, and I said I wanted some videos filmed, and he came down to Surrey where we were living at the time. So a lot of the very early episodes of Tweed Jacket Reviews were filmed in Epsom. First 2 were, which were 20th and 27th of September. One was the set Toledo Mark IV, which Mr. Coleman did work on, and the second one, which was a week later, was the 2014 MG3, which Mr. Coleman also did some work on. Yes. Actually, both of those weren't bad cars, really. Mr. Coleman's not very fond of Volkswagen products, so no, kind of stay away from those these days. Yeah, the MG3. The thing is that when they're relatively new, the MG3s, they're okay. We had ours until 2020, had about 6 years and about, what was it, like 60,000 miles or something. Yeah. When they get about sort of 8 to 10 years old, and this is only really now we're finding this out, yeah, they not only plummet in value, but they start to have quite serious problems. Yeah. Yeah. Corrosion's not unknown. Yeah. Timing chains, radiators, gearboxes, clutches. Yeah. They were very cheap cars. I mean, the one we had was actually from the kit assembled in Longbridge. It was one of the kit ones, and the 2018 onwards ones are much better. Yeah. Actually, even the 2016 onwards ones, the very early ones have no value at all now. No. They've got none. They're actually not bad to drive. The interior is very cheap, but actually they're actually pretty good. The engines, you need to work the engine quite hard. There's nothing turbo or anything, but the chassis can definitely handle like way more power than the car originally came with. Some people turbocharge and supercharge to 400 horsepower or something. I know the gearbox would like that particularly. You're going to get in this country a manual, but actually they're not bad. But I would recommend you go for the 2018 car or later because you get a 7-year warranty.
Yeah.
Next one actually was the BMW i3, something that Mr. Coleman probably would never touch in his entire life.
Oh, no, either.
So that again, we went on like episode 3. This is still in November 2018. It's a long time ago. Long time ago. So my friend Mr. Jackson, who had one of the most popular cars ever on the channel, the MG's LCV, he still has. In 2018, he had a BMW i3, a range extender one, and literally at the time when he started off, it's literally just like you don't know where to get cars. So like, who do I know who's got a car? It's like, well, he's got one. He's really keen on it. It's his first electric car. He essentially had 5 electric cars.
Yeah.
He's had tons of the things, and that was it. But actually, not bad cars. They're all right. It's just I don't think it's really me particularly. I've been moving on to a car that Mr. Coleman's very familiar with, which was Mr. Frank's car.
Oh yeah.
Up in Scotland in 2018. Yeah, this was the end of 2018. The car was like virtually new. It was 6 months old, I think.
Yeah.
And he's still got that. The only thing there's not really anything wrong with it. Just loads and loads of servicing.
Yeah.
That's about it. Although those wet belt TSI engines, subsequently I found out, are not the most reliable.
Yeah.
And then we skip ahead to something which this is the least liked episode we've ever done. It's only got a 75% like ratio. And it's not a surprise, and I stand by every word in this, the 2008 Peugeot 207 with the Prince engine.
Yeah.
What an absolutely awful car.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst cars I've ever driven. Like, there are worse. I mean, we might get to one of those later, but it is awful.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really, really bad car. I don't know why people like complain about it, but like that's what they're like. This one was in pretty bad condition. It kept hesitating when pulling out of junctions. One of the windows was built with a cable tie. Had sand in the boot. It was quite funny. Like the owner was fine with it. She thought it was hilarious. Like it wasn't we weren't digging in her particularly. Just a terrible car. Eventually, it blew up on the motorway.
Good.
Yeah, so that wasn't good. And then, like a surprisingly high, one of the most popular of all, was the 2019 Volkswagen Golf. That one of my friends just bought it. It done, I think, at the time of recording, 400 miles.
Yeah.
It done 400 miles, and it was low mileage from press cars. It was brand new. It was perfect condition. I just don't think it's a particularly interesting video because there's not really a lot to say. Here's a brand new Golf. That's about it. It's like it has these engines, and that's all you have to say with this Coleman.
Yeah.
Same thing with the
Great.
2018 Audi Q3. Again, like my friend had just got it, and she'd had it maybe a few months. It's one of the last of the original shape of the Q3s, and again, it was all right. The biggest problem with that car was the infotainment system, which was this tiny little pop-up thing. Because when we mentioned in 2011, that was probably like really fancy, but in 2018 already it looked rubbish. I mean, it's fine. I'd just rather have something else.
Yeah.
Next one, we can't talk about that one. Can't talk about that, sir.
Oh, yeah.
No, can't talk about that. So we're going to skip the next one.
Yeah.
There were some videos in the early days of the channel that I did and I wished I hadn't done. So we can't talk about those. Let's have a look at the comments for a second to see if anybody's. You want to know? Here we go. Oh, right, we've got Agent Barry. That guy said he Alpha 5. Hello, Mr. Lloyd and Mr. Mechanic, Mr. Coleman. ST says the Golf 7.5 review was what put me to the channel. I mean, that's very kind. I mean, like I think I don't think it's a particularly interesting video. Like it's a bit bland, that video, but you know it was very popular.
Yeah.
It's one of the most popular of all. Braintree Music says, "Good evening, gentlemen. Nice to see you on the live stream. Yeah, it's been a while." Jonathan Brabble says, "Good evening." Good evening, sir. Mark Passard says, "Good evening," and good evening to Mr. Coleman. Kevin Hawthorne says, "Good afternoon from Lakeland, Florida."
Oh, yeah, nice place.
Is it nice there, sir? Excellent. This is a good question. Pauline Gattoni says, if keeping appearances made today, what car would you choose for Richard Bucket to drive for points of cars in a beige leather interior and wood? There's only really a couple of cars I could sort of think. It's got to be something that's not really aspirational.
Jaguar XE.
I was thinking more a Toyota Camry.
Yeah.
Like one of those that I don't know if you get them. I think you get them based on interior wood, but it's a really forgotten car, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's totally forgotten. They're on sale like. I don't mean the one that's from the 2000s. I mean the one that was on sale about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like no one's ever heard of those.
No.
Nobody knows they exist. It'd be something like that, I think.
They're in the States, they are.
Yeah, there's tons of them, but nobody cares about them over here. Simone Hood on Classic says.
Hello, Simone.
Hello, Simone. Says hello. For Mr. Coleman, Mark Prasad says, out of the latter marks of Volvo estates after 2005, which would be the most reliable? I know the answer to that question already.
P70.
P2.
Yes.
Yeah, facelift one.
Yeah.
The P3 is all right, but it's not quite as good.
It's not quite as good as the early ones. Anything after 2005 with a V70 in it, yes, forbidden fuel. If you're that way, they are good.
We prefer the 2.4 white one, didn't we?
We did prefer the 2.4 white lot.
Exactly.
But, yeah, they are good. Go for one.
Yeah, so the P2s would be, I mean, in the owners club, the Porter section of the Volvo owners club, like so many people have got them. One chap's got 2 of them.
Mm.
One's on like 250, one's on like 350.
Yeah.
They're both P2s.
Well, get going.
Yeah, I know. So it's the facelift of P2, isn't it? V2, V70. Red Barry is just saying hello to Simone. Mr. Mark Parr says, good evening. Good evening to
Mark.
you, sir. Mark and his fantastic video on Festival Exceptional. It took him 5 days to edit.
Wow.
Simone says, what would Onzo be driving? So Onzo can't have the Mark IV Cortina. I reckon it's something, I actually know exactly.
I know
A Vauxhall Insignia.
No.
What then?
I was going to go something worse.
What?
A really, really worn out Rover 75.
It's a bit too aspirational though. How about Peugeot 407?
No, because Onslow's actually got quite good taste in cars.
Okay, so what do you? Okay, I was thinking more like a really old sort of Mark IV Monday or something like that.
Mm.
Well, not you not think.
No, I think yeah, something. I'd go along the lines of maybe Rover 75 or. Because bearing in mind, obviously, when that was filmed in, through into the 90s, that Cortina, that Onslow
77, isn't it?
Yeah,
or
was
78.
knocking on a bit.
Yeah, so you need something about 15 years old.
Yeah.
Actually, 75 is too old.
75 is too old.
So we need to go like 2008, 2009, something like that. Which is why I mentioned like your Insignia or a Mark IV Mondeo because they were both current then.
Mhm. Yeah, or
A very rusty Mazda 6.
I can't see Onslow driving anything from
Japan.
from that neck of the woods. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'll go with that. Yeah, I'll go with that. Insignia.
Yeah, like a 2009, a really tatty,
Yeah.
beaten up, missing wheel trims.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the early Insignia A's. Oh my gosh, there's so many rough ones out there now.
Mhm.
There's tons of really horrible rough ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Insignia A, like an early one. Oh, Mr. Colvin, you're not going to enjoy this. Agent Barry says, what are your gentlemen's opinions on the so-called Capri that Ford have launched?
I'm not talking about it.
You can see my opinion in the very vague vlog that I uploaded, which has got a picture of it in there.
Yeah.
I've already talked about it, so I don't need to.
Well,
Mr. Coleman, we don't talk about $7 of fuel. Mr. Coleman doesn't talk about the new Capri.
I don't. Joseph doesn't talk about diesels on his channel. I don't talk about Volkswagens or the new Capri.
You don't talk about the new Capri on your channel
It's
now.
an absolute insult.
Yeah, exactly. Frazzle Face says, good evening, Mr. Lloyd and Mr. Coleman. Good evening, sir. Paulie Antonio says, Onzo might drive a Mark III Monday 1.8 like silver with missing wheel trims. That's, yeah, a little bit too old. We'll go for the Insignia with the missing wheel trims as well. Oh, right. Agent Barry says, the Capri looks like what you get if you rearrange the letters in Capri. Well, that's not a new thing, is it, that at all? No. Right, so the next thing on the tree deck is just, bear in mind, we're only up to April 2019. We've already done like 10 videos, so we were churning these out quite quickly. The 2011 Chrysler Delta.
Ooh.
I mean, it's a very rare car.
Yeah.
They imported less than 1,000 of those. To be honest, it's not that bad to drive. It's the same platform as a Fiat Bravo, which apparently is one of the worst cars of the last 15 years.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
mean, I think that's probably right. This one wasn't too bad. The Delta is more interesting for its rarity and the fact that actually it was a Lancia in other places, and for some reason between 2011 and 2015 they badged Lancias as Chryslers over here. We only got two. We got the Upsilon and we got the Delta. I really want to film that. She said, why? I said, because it's, well,
a bit rubbish.
I don't think she's got it anymore. This one was it's a middle spec. It was an SR with the 1.4 turbo engine out of an Abarth 595, and it was all right. The most interesting thing is it's rare and it looks a bit weird. That's about it really. It's better than a Chrysler Sebring. And those are terrible cars. Then we can't talk about that. What we can talk about is probably, I'd say, out of everything, it's not the most popular episode 3 Jack Reviews ever, but I'd say this is amongst the fans probably the highest rated one.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Coleman's 1982 Ford Granada 2.8 Gear X Estate with 5-speed Type 9 manual.
It is outside.
It's outside, yes.
Yes.
I gather probably one of you have a lot of opinions about that. It's an amazing car. I'm not really allowed to drive it anymore because I was responsible for premature wear of it because I can't drive very powerful old manual cars very well. So I don't drive it anymore. But when I did drive it, it was good. I even actually managed to get it into reverse first time. In the video, that was actually me driving it.
Yeah.
I managed to do it. Ford Granada Mark 1 and Mark 2 are probably some of the best cars Ford ever made.
Yeah.
Probably ever.
Yeah, for European.
Yeah, they probably are some of the best. And the example that Mr. Coleman has, it's been in the family since new.
Yeah.
It was registered in, I think, March 83, but it is an 82 car. And it was a factory 5-speed manual.
Yeah.
It's got lots and lots of extras on it.
Yeah, every single one available. At the time it's got it.
If you got cruise control, I can't remember.
Wasn't available.
So the only thing it hasn't got is cruise control. It's got air conditioning, it's got an electric sunroof,
Yeah.
it's got electric seats, it's got heated seats,
Yeah.
it's got the trip computer, which is very advanced, wasn't it? That?
Yeah, it's got heated washer jets, it's got electric mirrors, it's got limited slip diff, it's a 5-speed manual.
Four electric windows?
4 electric windows, it's got the extended range fuel tank, it's got the overriders on the bumpers, it's got all the complete fog light kit, it's got the chrome wiper arms all round. I'm sure something I missed. Oh, it's got trip computer as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got everything. Also, there's a couple of very good upgrades on it. One is the Mark III Scorpio Cosworth wheels, which is a very common upgrade because the original tyres on that are very hard to get.
Yeah.
They're really hard on the TRX wheels that came with. And the other thing is limited slip diff, which the car actually didn't have originally.
No, it was an option, but I fitted it in later years.
And I've been in the car, Mr. Coleman has been using limited slip differential, and yeah, it's one of the things that people who race the Granadas do look for, is one with the limited slip differential. So yeah, I mean, we could spend like all day talking about that. I mean, it's a seminal thing. I wanted to drive a Mark II Granada for absolutely years because, of course, they had several in the professionals. They had 4 in the professionals.
Yeah.
2 were Jupiter red, and then one was like a midnight blue, which was almost black.
Yeah.
Another one was a slightly different shade of blue. All pre-facelifts, all 2.8s. Some were Gear X's, some were gears, and some were carb, some were injection. I always wanted to drive one, and so I did. But next is Mr. Coleman's 1990 Nissan Primera, number 80 off the line in Sunderland.
Yeah.
It was a 1.6 LSX. Nissan were really strange in the early 90s with trim levels. They used to get the letters sort of all mixed up. And actually it is an LSX, not an SLX. The weird thing about that car, 2 weird things. One, the headlining was really droopy.
Yeah.
And it had no rev counter.
No, it was carburetted on.
But also it had Volvo S40 wheels on it.
Which I fitted.
Which were a replacement for the steel wheels. I could not believe how nice that car was to drive. It was extraordinarily nice car. Like it's one of the sort of favourites of the early 90s for me is the P10 Primera, having driven a couple of other ones. Then but you drive all this other stuff that's around at the time, and when you drive a Primera, and you're like, well, apart from the Mark 1 Mondeo, that's one of the best cars of the time.
Yeah.
And the only problem is, Primeras just never have been worth a lot of money. Like maybe it's like a GT or something.
Yeah.
But they're still not. They're still not worth tons of money. The P10s.
Well, they won't be. I don't think they ever will be.
They're not. And they tended to rust. One of the worst ones was Filler-Nack, wasn't it? The fuel Filler-Nack. And once you've got that, it's pretty much the end.
You can replace them, but it's really just not worth it on a car like that.
It's a shame. I personally prefer on them the 1.6.
Yeah, so do I.
Which is the GA16 engine. The GA16 engine is a superb engine. They are really, really good. They rev really nicely.
I've never blew one up.
They also sound fantastic, don't they? Sound good. I personally probably prefer the N14 Sunny to the Primera, just the size of the car, but they drive really similar way. So there's that. Right, let's have a look at some of these other comments. Oh my gosh, this is interesting. So, Mark Passad, I know police pursuit vehicles and was thing of the past. Given the police use helicopters, what would be the best pursuit car today? Not a BMW.
No.
They tend to blow up and overheat. I mean, the police tend to use, and actually, it's one of the reasons why we still got Volvo Estates on sale is the V90 with, I think it's a T6 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a T6, a 4-cylinder.
Yes, it's 4-cylinder turbo. Yeah. There's that. What else would be? You can't buy the WRX anymore. They've got rid of the You can't build. You can't. They would be good, but you can't buy one anymore. They already use those. They use tons of those V90s, don't they? Probably something like that.
Yeah.
If it's new, I mean, obviously there's loads of others. I mean, the old A50 T5s were fantastic. Frazzle face. Someone spotted a 1989 Peugeot 405 MO16 in America. They did sell Peugeots in America until 1991.
Yeah, sometimes.
So it's 50, I think it's 505 and 605 at the end, wasn't it? So 505, 554, 55405 at the end.
Yeah.
So we got very early 405s. I didn't realise that the MI16 was sold in America.
It might have been.
I don't know. I know they definitely sold them. I went to America in 2001. I saw one there.
Yeah.
So yeah. Mark Passad says Mr. Coleman's Gear Estate is a car I wanted my father to get, but he never were one. They weren't cheap, were they? Like that. No. I mean, that was a chunk of money that car when it was ordered, wasn't it?
In 1982, when he purchased it with everything on it, with a bit of dealership discount and that, etc., it was £13,860.
Well, we'll do a conversion of that in a second. That's a lot of money, isn't it? It's a lot of money for a car. I imagine like a TCV at the time was like
25p,
about $2.5 grand or something. Yeah, it's a very expensive car. I'll bring up the inflation calculator. Well, we'll do that. We've got another one. Oh, Simone says, the Cortina is not drivable for the future. I found more rust.
Where? Let me know.
I mean, that's a shame. I was looking forward to that, Simone. I mean, because I've got a trip coming up down to the West Country actually next month. I was, going to talk to you about that because I was looking forward to it. But that's a shame. I still want to drive it because the last Cortina I drove was fantastic. So, how many Mark III Cortinas do you own, Mr. Coleman?
Cortinas?
Yeah, Mark III Cortinas.
Quite a few. None of them made it back to the road.
Yes, we know that, sir.
Yeah.
So 13,700 or so, was it?
13,860.
13,860. So back in, well, go over your ticks, what it was ordered.
Yeah.
£48,000. £48,000. Lots of money, isn't it? It's a lot of money. Wow, it's expensive. So it's worth it now. I mean, nice Granadas. You can buy it. Believe it or not, Mark II Granada for under £5,000 with an MOT.
Yeah.
I can't believe that, but you can.
Yeah.
This one, no,
No.
not at all. a lot more than
I
that.
can always say to everybody, you want to say, oh yeah, you want to sell that, you want to see your Venice?
No.
And I always just say to them, whatever you're going to offer me ain't enough. It's as simple as that.
Well, you can't.
Not enough.
You can't replace it, can you?
No, it's irreplaceable.
No. So Matthew Jones says, "Evening gentlemen, talking of the 90s, did I hear Proton are making a comeback?" The thing is with Proton is that Geely have owned them for years and years and years. Now they keep saying that Proton actually pulled out in 2014. I don't think that's true. I think it was more like 2012.
Yeah.
That might have been they were closing down all the operations and things like that. And Proton only ever came with a 2-year warranty. Even right at the end, they only came with a 2-year warranty. They weren't bad. I could consider getting one. I was looking at a Gen 2 with the LPG system, because the LPG system was free. I thought I'd save a lot of money, but I drove one, and it's all right, but they're a bit cramped. The interior's not particularly nice, and there were better cars for the money, even though it had LPG. So I didn't buy one of those in the end. But yeah, Geely, obviously they own Volvo, they own a taxi company, they own Lotus.
Well, if Proton are coming back then, if they're owned by Geely, I'm guessing they're going to be maybe conquering the SUV market, so there'll probably just be some rebadged Volvo XC40s on the way in there.
Well, it's not that. Geely own a brand called Boyu.
Who?
Geely Boyu. That's what they're SUVs.
Sounds nice with chips, that does.
Yeah, Geely Boyu, yeah. So what I think is going to happen is because they have a lot of electric cars now, and Proton have just launched their first electric car.
Okay.
But it's just a rebadged Geely Boyu or whatever it is. I mean, there's different names. So what's going to happen is probably they'll just be using the range of other stuff they have around the world and putting Proton badges on it. Because Proton probably sounds better to people in this country than Geely Boyu.
Yeah, it sounds like a skin condition.
Yeah, Geely Boyu. Yeah. So I think... I don't know. We'd have to do a lot of work to kind of sort of overcome things like was it Armada and JQ and things like that have just been launched over here, which are Great Wall Motors brands. Obviously, your 03 are from formerly the Funky Cat. They've renamed the Funky Cat now to the 03. It doesn't really help their sales figures particularly, but like it's better than calling it a Funky Cat.
Yeah,
I
suppose so. I really don't know what
Or a Funky Cat. Yeah. So, oh gosh, excellent question here. Well, we'll get to that in a second. That's a fantastic question. That's actually a question for Mr. Cole rather than me.
What's that? Quick question for Joseph. Why don't you talk about the...
That's a question for you, Mr. Colburn. Right, so Protons, yes, that's interesting. Braintree Music. I just came from a car show. There was a Mark II Granada on metric tyres.
Yeah.
They said like 90-200 on them. Is that right?
That seems awfully cheap. If that's the price, that seems awfully cheap.
But isn't that like the measurement?
No.
Won't be, will it? Cool. So on the TRX wheels, which are metric, what was the tyre size on one of those?
190, 650, 390.
Okay, so that's tyres are very expensive, £200 because they're Ferrari Mondial tyres, aren't they?
Yeah, and the trouble is with them, you have to order them. You can order them anytime you want, but they have to get an order of 10 complete sets before they'll make them.
And most people have just put gear wheels because they're very similar.
Yeah.
You can get tyres of those, they look similar, or they put the Scorpio Mark III wheels on, which is a good swap, and they look fantastic on the Mark II.
Yeah.
So why would you order those?
Yeah, I've got the original wheels still for mine, and they look fantastic on it because they're diamond cut. And I just, for the mileage that I do in the car, I just point blank refuse spending the best part of £1,500 for it to just sit around, because, and they don't drive very nice on those TRXs either because they're a square tyre. There's no actual rounding because Granada's a big heavy car. It does like to roll a little bit, but they're just for me personally, they drive horrible on them. So that's why I won't put them back on mine.
Yeah.
Shows at the NEC maybe, but no, they can't be driven on again.
Yeah, they look fine on it like that, to be honest. I mean, people do sometimes put some pretty horrible wheels on Granada's bottom. I've seen some horrible ones, but the ones on there, they're just right, aren't they? Did you get a cruise control on the Gearx Executive with leather interior and a Mark II?
I think so.
So it's probably the only one that had it. Jova R says, hopefully no more classic car shows are threatened because they're an emission zone. Now that's actually very interesting because the Bromley pageant, and I think I talked about this, can't remember where, but yeah, the channel update that's coming up next week, I did talk about this. The Bromley pageant is only allowed to come back because they've moved it out of Bromley to Ardingly in West Sussex.
Okay.
It's not in the Bromley pageant anymore. I don't actually know if I'll be able to go because the organisers have decided that they're going to put on the same day, I think, as Festival Exceptional.
Oh, great.
Which, for me, I'm afraid I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
And that is Festival Exceptional, probably, as opposed to that one, which is a shame, because I like both of them. Paulie Archeri says, the Vauxhall Senator 3 to 24 valve is the best motorway police car.
Yeah, I'll agree with him.
Excellent. Simone says, talking about emissions, I recently bought some synthetic petrol. Yeah, you can buy it. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. I don't know whether this is going to work. I mean, there's a plot line in an episode of Persuaders from 1972 about synthetic petrol. It's nothing new whatsoever. People say it's the future. It's like, well, it's a future over 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it still sort of is, but yeah. Dominic Chesterfield, why don't you talk about Prince?
Do you want me to be honest?
All right then, Mr. Coleman.
Because it's absolute garbage.
Never,
hot
ever,
garbage.
Ever buy a car with a Prince engine in it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
I have never known a good one of those engines. Oil consumption, head gaskets, timing chains, water pumps, clutches that wear the back of the crankshaft out, which renders the engine scrap. Oil leaks, coolant leaks, timing solenoid failure, worn out camshafts, cracked rocker covers, air leaks around the inlet manifold, injector seals failing, injectors failing themselves and creating misfire codes, oil burning that bad that it blocks the catalyst up and it won't run. Anything else?
Rubbish. Yeah. To be honest, the PureTech that replaced it, that's not much better.
It's better than the Prince engine.
It's a bit better, but the problem is that we're at the early stages of it. The PureTech came out in 2012. Mm-hmm. I think the newer design is better. They're still using it, of course, in tons of things. Yeah. But the early ones are now starting to have quite serious problems. Yeah. That's why I don't recommend them to people. What you want to do really is get...
Do you know they're that much of a weak engine that the actual camshaft...
The PureTech?
No, the Prince engine.
Prince engine, yeah.
I just thought that they're that much of a weak engine, the camshafts are hollow. You can actually see through them. And the camshaft lobes, rather than it being machined out of a correct piece of steel, the camshaft lobes are heat shrunk onto a tube. And then over time, through heat stress, it breaks the bond. And the cam tube will keep turning, but the camshaft lobe won't. It destroys the engine.
I think that's happening with cars with Prince engine, and the only people now who are using the turbo one, they're like Peugeot. It's still in things like the 3008, the 508, and things like that, in like super duper like hot like 300 horsepower form. Apparently those are better, but the early ones, like I think they came out in 2006 in the Mini, and the 207 got it in 2007, I think it was. You want to be looking for a car with a TU engine. You want to be looking for a car with a Tritec engine. If you're looking for the Mini, you want like the next generation, like the F55, F56. You don't want to don't touch any of the second generation Minis. None of them, absolutely none of them.
I refuse. If I have a customer that's bought a new car, or somebody that says, "Oh yeah, can you have a look at this?" You know, ask what engine it's. Well, I will refuse to work on it because
the Prince engine.
Yeah, because they create more hassle, and by the time you've laid a spanner on it, trying to rectify one of the faults that it has many of, you've bought the farm, and it's your project. So that's why I won't have anything to do with them.
So we aren't the only ones who say this. If you go on Chops Garage.
Yeah.
If you go on Car UK, because you know Lee in particular, he really, really knows what he's talking about. Some of the guides that are on there, he's just done one of the Fiat 500 and the Mark II Ford Ka. He's exceptionally knowledgeable about certain cars. He knows like that kind of stuff backwards, and he will rant massively about the Prince engine. Like, you think I'm bad, Mr. Coleman's bad. They are dreadful engines. Like, one of my friends recently bought a Mini Cooper S with a Prince engine in it, and I just like sort of like praying if there are any problems with it. Essentially.
He will.
Yeah, I've warned him about it. But never mind. This is interesting here. So, Mark Parr from Mark on Motoring says you could spend £48,000 a lot worse these days. Some horrendous all-electric hybrid SUV.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's a good point. So Simone's talking about the Mark III Cortina TC. The rear chassis leg.
Normal.
Boot floor.
Normal.
Headlight bulb.
Yeah.
Headlight bracket.
Yeah.
Both for front balances. I've had two front balances on a Cortina Mark III.
Yeah.
Okay. A section of the driver's front chassis leg.
Yeah.
I've already cut off the rear balances of the fuel tank.
Yeah.
Dear, that sounds fuel tank's out. Oh dear, that's not very good, is it?
A friend of mine might be getting a Cortina soon to race of the Mark III variety that is an estate like yours. Obviously, it's not going to go back on the road again. If it's any good, I'll drop you a line, see if we can get some panel cuts off of it.
It's very kind of you, Mr. Coleman. Right, so Alex Hawkins. Alex, hello, sir. The man with exceptionally interesting classic cars that change over frequently. Have you still got that standard 10? Standard 10, yeah. Mark says, this is about the Prince engine. I had a DS3 with the 155 brake horsepower, the THP engine, that one.
Yeah.
Turbo Prince engine, new. Time was great, but the timing changed like a bicycle chain.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fair enough.
I think exactly what's happened with that.
I think we know the answer exactly to this question, sir. Mr. Cole, what is a better car, a Mark I Granada Coupe or a Capri?
Granada Coupe. All day long.
Cranley Lions at a car show. I saw the picture of Mr. Coleman. I saw an XL Coupe. They actually had another one there as well. I think they had 3 or something. Because the Granada Mark II Drivers Guild, they always go to that event, and that's the best. That's the best Granada club, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The best Granada club.
No, guys in that.
Yeah. Dominic Chester. Okay. I've heard of similar problems with Jaguar XE, which we can't talk about.
Oh,
but
ingenious.
Yeah, but
ingenious engine.
Even the petrol ones are dreadful.
Well, yeah, it's basically the petrol one is the diesel Ingenium engine with a petrol head on it.
Yeah, I mean, like
what a nightmare.
I cannot recommend any cars an Ingenium engine.
No.
Like none. I was once offered to go in one, and I said no, I'm not doing it.
No, my dad. That was before my dad retired.
Yeah.
From Jag, he had a lot to do with that, and he says I'm glad I retired when he did, because I do not want to put any of my engineering experience anywhere near that, because it is never ever going to work.
Yeah, so they're not very good, those. Not recommended.
No.
So, Mark Parr says the ultra emission zone are is on in my went to Brooklyn's. Yeah, Brooklyn's in Surrey, so it's right on the
on the line.
Right on the line. Yeah, it is. It's fine. You can go in there and anything, but oh, it's so close. Mr. Coleman and I were talking about this actually the other day. Yeah, the balance creeping up. There's just people keep asking me this question. It's like, why do you talk about it, child? It's so obvious. It's because the Mayor of London is a something.
Begins with W and ends in R.
Yeah, that's what the chap said to me at the end of part 2 of the Chronological Classic Car Show. Because that's it. Yeah, exactly. And I've
had fun this week.
Yeah, exactly. You've had fun trying to persuade the people is over 40 years old. It's like, oh yes, Mr. Coleman, it's 41 and a half years old, it's fine. But
exactly.
That's cheap, isn't it? The basic problem with it is they're so cheap and they don't have any value that like people don't look after them anymore.
Yeah.
and rust.
Yeah.
And also they've got, I think, they've Campbell's, they've got the Ypsilon engine in those. I think they've the Ypsilon in
I
those.
think so, yeah.
Yeah, they've got a Campbell. That's the only problem really. Apart from that, they're fine.
Right.
It's just not the most interesting car with them. It's fine though. Mark's talking to Simone. Simone says, "Thank you, Mr. Cole. My email address is in the channel description."
Just drop me a line on Messenger with friends on Facebook and
All right, man.
I'll sort it with you.
Sorted then. Oh, Alex, all Alex. Just sold the standard 10. That's a shame. I was going to ask if I was going to go in that. But probably the brakes would be really bad and I'd be scared. Never mind. It was probably for the best. Need to raise some funds. The Allegro's going for paint. Oh, excellent. George, isn't it? George Allegro.
Yeah.
Dominic Chesterman. So we can't touch the Middies, the Eco Boom, and we can't touch the PureTech. That's half used cars in a few years. If you look at, I don't know, Chops Garage or Car UK, this is pretty much what they're saying. Is that we can't have those, and the Volkswagen TSIs.
Yeah.
Now, I must say something. The normally aspirated 1 litres of 3 cylinders are okay. They're actually got timing chain in them. That's the 59 and 73 brake horsepower ones.
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy this 59, it's just too slow. But 73, I've driven a 73 brake horsepower Volkswagen Up, and actually, it's a pretty good car. Like, they're fine. They're not as reliable as the 108s or the C1s or the iGo. They're not, but they're just a bit of a nicer drive. That's what I'd say. Oh yes, Dominic says the K-series wasn't so bad. Well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe.
There's nothing wrong with the K-series engine.
If you do
at all.
If you do it properly, if you put the right type of head gasket in it, and you actually get someone who knows what they're doing, you actually increase the power as well. As Mr. Coleman has done frequently. So it's the Victor Rhines or Lotus Elise spec head gaskets on them. I mean, you've got to get some. You can't skim it more than about twice.
You can't skim the head more than twice. If anybody thinks that those multi-layer cylinder head gaskets are a good idea,
do not use one.
Wrong. Absolute garbage. All you need to do is make sure the head's perfectly flat.
Yeah.
Replace the crankshaft girdle underneath in the sump for a stronger one. Put some new head bolts in it. You'll never have to touch it again.
Yeah. The thing is, if you get someone who knows what they're doing who wouldn't rebuild it, obviously you put a cam belt on it whilst you're doing that, whilst you're there, which obviously you've done on Mr. Richardson's 200 VI anyway, you've already done that. Then it's fine, you don't have any more problems. Putting that series, that's a good one. I can't see Jaguar being around in 5 years at this rate. Yeah, I mean, this is something I covered with in a very vague vlog. With actually cars they can't give away. Yeah, the I-Pace is kind of, that's the end of that. They've only got the E-Pace in production, and that will only remain until 2025. Yeah. Everything else is gone. Yeah. Absolutely everything's gone. Agent Barry says the Mayor of London is gone! Yeah. Well, he is, yeah. That's he is. Mark says, I've driven something with the aforementioned fuel engine. I think it's the Ingenium. We can't talk about that, so you're naughty. Yeah. I wasn't aware of any mechanical issues. It doesn't matter if it's that one or the petrol one. They both fail.
What happens with Mark, is they've got balancer shafts in the sump, and they didn't put any bearings in them. So basically, it's relying on a film of oil running a stainless steel balancer shaft in an aluminium sump, and it will wear a hole in it. But before that happens, it puts too much stress on the timing chains driving it, and rips the plastic. Yes, I said that right. Plastic tensioner off of its mount. It will then start jangling and rattling around, but because it's quite a noisy diesel engine anyway, you don't really realise that until it's worn a hole in the timing chain cover, which is at the back on the clutch end, and starts leaking oil everywhere.
So essentially what you are saying is that there's going to be lots of Range Rovers, lots of Land Rovers, lots of Jaguars. The Ingenium engine only came in 2015. There actually are a few after that I think the Evoque still have a forward base 2 litre in it. Who did petrol after that, which is, I think it's all right. Yeah. So make sure you just anything after 2015. I think the ones that are safe is stuff like the XJ's okay.
XJ's fine.
XJ's
got a Lion engine in it, that doesn't be a problem.
Yeah, XJ's fine. The other
don't buy anything with it. If you see Ingenium, run.
Yeah.
Just run.
And when you buy an F-Type, actually some of those were 2 litre.
Yeah, I know.
Buy the V6 or the V8.
Yeah.
It's fine. Because they're all right. Sean Cook says, "Oh dear, my wife's 2010 Mini Cooper does 90,000 miles without problems. It uses five litres of oil between services."
Yeah, it's scrap.
Um,
That's ball wear, that is. So you can see the ball, the ball's wearing it. The balls are wearing it, worn oval.
this is interesting. Mr. Parr asks, "What do you make of massive Skyactiv engines? They're driven with 2 litre."
Never worked on one yet.
The one that was in the Mazda 3 that I drove last year was actually one of the best cars I drove
It's supposed to be
last year.
quite good.
Yeah, the piston fuel ones are an absolute and utter disaster. Like any modern Mazda with a piston fuel engine, just don't buy it. The Active G engine, which is the normal one, they're actually really good. They're very reliable. The Active X, which is oh gosh, what is it? It's got like direct ignition and it's got compressed ignition and spark.
Yeah.
I can't remember what do you call those?
It's kind of like a GDI gas.
Yeah, but it's different. It's different. Yeah.
I'll have to look into it and have a look.
Can't
Like I say, I haven't had anything to do with them yet. So I'll have to do my own research on that one.
As far as I understand it, like actually they're all right. Right, let's go back to this. Actually, there was one more thing here. Simone's not fond of the BMW Minis. There are quite a few people who say that.
Yeah.
Dominic Chester says, if more people do the case series properly, we should see a fair survival rate for the MGF and TF. Yeah, pretty much all the MGFs and TFs now, they don't have a lot of value, but the people who've done them, the first thing they do is the head gasket and the cam belt.
Yeah.
Pretty much, and there's obviously, you could put probably an N series like head on if you really want to.
Yeah.
I've never heard of one of those going wrong. I asked somebody who had like a very early continuation MGTF from 2008. He had it from new, and he said, "I don't think anyone. I'm not aware of anyone in the community having any problems." So actually, they did solve it.
Yeah.
And the MG6 has the Cavacci engine, which is another version of the K series, and that's apparently fine as well. So you can again put a Cavacci head on it if you want. Mark says Skyactiv G petrol return 40 miles per gallon. Yeah, they are quite economical, those. Somehow they're a non-turbo engine. There's no turbos in the Skyactiv engine. This is an interesting question for you, Mr. Coleman. Have you ever worked on a Pentastar V6? Says
I have. Yes. I've replaced an oil cooler, an oil filter housing on them. They're a dreadful job. Sits right in the middle of the V. Fills up with oil. You don't know till the oil light comes on, and you have a massive leak all over the bell housing. It goes everywhere, and if that doesn't happen, the camshafts usually eat themselves.
Lovely.
But it's a nice engine. It is actually, to be fair, it is a nice engine. Timing chains are pretty crap on them as well.
Yes. I'm going to go through this quite quickly now.
Go for it.
So we've got the Volvo 960. Mr. Coleman also has a V90, which I've driven. They're actually one of the best cars Volvo ever made.
Yeah.
They're one of the best. We agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to actually having a go in Mr. Coleman's V90 for a few days now.
So you've got it for a few days, haven't you?
Yeah. Next, Mr. Richardson's Rover Tomcat, which was not good condition when I drove it. The gearbox has some problems with the it's for linkage or something. I think it is. It's really bad.
It needs a bush in it.
It's a very high mileage PG1, and they're not very nice on a high mileage. Also, suspension was completely broken when I drove it. I drove it some worry, but apart from that, the car was pretty good. It's a pretty good car. That 2019 MG3. That's a press car from MG. That one's pretty good. 2016 Seat Leon ST. It's quite a good car. That actually. The only problem is this. We found out later. This is a 16. I filmed it in 19. Is that the engines suffer from all the carbon build-up, and that's a common problem on them. But actually, the rest of the car, they're actually not that bad. They're pretty good. Next one we can't talk about. Skipping that. My gosh, we're not talking about that. Yeah, I know. So I was young and foolish.
Yeah.
Then the 1998 Audi A3, which one of my friends owned. It was all right. Like, she didn't pay a lot of money for it. If no budget reviews existed, we'd have done it on no budget reviews, but it didn't exist. So. That was okay. Like, I drove that car several times. Actually sourced that myself back in, I think, was it like 17 or something? It's really early on in my career.
Moby Dick with us.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. That. 2019 MG ZS 1 litre automatic. At the time, that was a pretty good car. Like, the facelift ones are better, and they're just about to be replaced, but they're actually not bad. Those at all. They're pretty good cars.
Yeah.
The only thing is with those is that I don't really like Mr. Coleman pointed this out. I don't like the fact that the early ones like this, there's not enough tyre in the wheel arch.
No,
they look stupid. The latest ones they corrected this. They gave them larger tyres.
Yeah. But
it looks a bit strange. Apart from that, they're not too bad. It's just a bit dated. The Citroen Saxo. That was hilarious. Mr. Manning from Matty's Cars still has that Saxo. I remember sitting in it and like putting my foot down for it to move off, and I realised one, the pedal boxes are tiny, and two, it's got no power.
Yeah.
It's a 1.1 TU engine. I mean, they're not bad. They're really cramped, and they've got no power. Obviously, if it was a VTS, it'd be a bit different. One of the least VW jacket reviews ever, the 2018 Toyota Prius. I don't think I have much to say about that. Like, kind of, I don't really know. Yeah. And then the Astra 8 that my father-in-law has of 2010, he's still got that. For some reason, like, the timing chain and everything like that's still fine in it.
Yeah.
It's a 1.4.
Still looked after.
Yeah, he's had it for 1 year old. He's had it 13 years. I just don't think he's ever going to sell that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit grubby, but he's still got it. I mean, at some point, I might actually like review that again because he's still got it. I don't know. And then the famous Rover 620 GSI automatic, which Mr. Richardson also drove, which went to Santa Pod. That was a car that was not in good condition. People keep asking me to this day about it and saying how great it was. It's a pretty bad example. Like Rover 600 is like one Mr. Coleman owned. Like they can be great. Like a Rover 680 Ti recently that's coming up on no budget reviews, and that was, even though the gearbox was mashed, it had done 180,000 miles or something. It was a really nice car to drive. That one, it wasn't a really good example. I paid less than £400 for it. And that's long scrapped. Then the 2019 MG's SAV, which Mr. Jackson owns, he still has it. That was the very first MG's SAV delivered to a customer in the country, the very first one. And it was a very, very popular review. He had almost 20,000 views on that. That was a revolutionary car when it came out. You got this enormous discount on it, like government grant plus MG. So it was £31,000, but he paid 24 for it, and he got a free wall box with it. And actually, those have proven to be reasonably good cars. Yeah. All of them are still under warranty. I mean, again, it's a bit soft in terms of the ride, like it pitches all over the place if you drive one of those, but yeah, it's okay. Next thing is the Mazda MX-5 NB. There's not really a lot to say about those. Like, everyone sort of covered those. Yeah. The thing is, I would say about that one is that if you look really carefully in the video, you can see the rust repairs on it. They were done okay, but obviously, like, I think he paid less than £1,000 for the whole car. So, yeah, good but rusty. Mr. Richardson's Alfa Romeo 145, I think they call it the Cloverleaf, yeah. That car, I don't know how it's still going. It's had so many things done to it. And then it had the engine suffered from the oil sergeant, didn't it, on cylinders. It's under 2. Yeah. And you know that happened, and something else has happened. Once you actually drive one, it's really good. It sounds great. The handling's good. The steering's good. The gearbox is all right. But just the interior, like compared with a lot of other cars at the time, it's not that nice. And there's just so many things that go wrong with them, aren't there? But it's credit to him he still owns it because he's a proven enthusiast, and it's a nice car. MGHS 2020. This was in December 2019, so it was a brand new car. Those are all right. Again, it's a bit like a larger ZS. It's got masses and masses of room in them, but they pitch like crazy. I don't know many cars that pitch as much as one of those. It's a bit of a disconcerting feeling, so they're not really an enthusiast car. The GS, which is a really rare car, they only ever made 3,000 for our market. It's 2018 GS, I think it was about 18 months on when I drove it. The difference in quality between an HS and a GS is night and day. It's absolute night and day. They're very similar engineering, the same engine and gearbox in them. But if you can, I probably wouldn't recommend a GS. Also, the simple reason that the GSs, you cannot get parts of them anymore. Like if your automatic gearbox fails in your GS, that's it. It's a new gearbox. They won't repair it, and they're not really worth the £5,000 it is to put a new gearbox in. So if you are going to buy a GS, I don't really know quite why. If you really want one, don't buy an automatic one. The MTZS 1.5 manual, those are really slow. Yeah, we're getting there, sir. Then the Polo G40 from 1992, I think it was. That was filmed in Scotland, up in Mr. Frank lives, and they're really cramped. The steering's really heavy, and the brakes. Even this is a facelift one, so it's got the better brakes. The brakes are still terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I actually found it really uncomfortable to drive. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And only a tenth of the number of views was the Jaguar E-Type in January 2020. It was the 1,000 subscriber special.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? So you make this 1,000 subscriber special about a month afterwards, and you get a tenth of the views.
Yeah.
I don't understand that, but never mind. The E-Type, fantastic. They're not very good at lower speed. They're a bit heavy, but this had a Quay 5-speed in it. It was glorious. That was a good day. Mr. Richardson and I filmed that. And then the 1999 Vauxhall Omega 2.5 V6 CDX.
Fine.
We got thrown out of the country park.
Yeah.
For Mr. Coleman doing, what are you doing? Like sliding, doing donuts and sliding in it. It was a fantastic car to drive. I really, really liked it. The only problem is, later that day, I drove Mr. Coleman's 2002 Alpha 166.
And then you were reborn.
The 3-litre V6
Yeah.
with the automatic gearbox. I've driven the manual one, and to be honest, I prefer the automatic ones. Because the clutch pedals always fall off the manual ones.
Yep.
It was a fantastic car to drive. I've driven very few cars that are like you get in it and it instantly just fits you, and the steering's lovely and everything like that.
Some more questions coming.
Yeah, we'll see in a second. We've still pages of these. That was fantastic. The only problem is, like all the other Alphas, it's too many problems. It's too many problems.
I don't own an Alpha anymore.
Yeah, I know. And then I'm glad I don't own the 2008 Vauxhall Astra 1.8 twin
I'm
top.
glad you don't own that thing either.
For the twin tops, like the Astra H's, they do have their problems, but the twin tops, you just multiply all the problems with an Astra H by a factor of 2, and it's mainly to do with the roof. The roof is a nightmare. Like
That's been scrapped now, hasn't it?
yeah, it's got scrapped. Yeah. It was kind of fun because it also had a sports manifold on it, so it made a good noise. It wasn't that fast, but I don't know why I even bothered. That's a stupid idea. Suzuki Ignis, which was in the very final episode to be jacket view before coronavirus. I see the upload date's 10th of March. Yeah. We know what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good car. Actually, it's pretty good. The only thing is it leant quite under the bend. I drove the automatic one, which has also been very successful earlier this year. They're good cars, though. It's just a shame to say that Suzuki don't make them anymore. Then we have my mother's Mercedes, which I waited like years to get back to. And finally, in June 2020, Mr. Richardson actually filmed that for me. And, well, there's not much to say. We owned it for years. Then the MGZS facelift, 155 manual, we sort of talked about that really. It's just like better than the other one. Then the Road 45 V6, we covered that. Then we go back to this page. Some of these we can go through very quickly. The MG6, the only manual one ever in this country that had been chipped to 200 horsepower. That thing was ballistic.
Yeah.
You also get out of the problem with the gearbox and clutch in one of those is horrible. It's this manual gearbox in one of those is horrible.
Yeah.
It's not good. So actually that was a fantastic car. I loved that. Sunny on Tivoli, we don't need to talk about that. Don't talk about those. Sunny on Tivoli 2021. That was really nice. A nice car that. But then I would say that I own one. The Mark III Escort.
I remember you doing that.
Yeah.
Good cars they are.
Sorry?
Good cars they are.
Not really like 1.3 L4.
No, but...
No, it just really crude, really bad handling, not very nice interior. If that was a 1.6 gear, it would be a different story. With the fun though, you can see the whole suspension of the car kind of squatting down as I accelerate away from the camera, which I think is a fantastic thumbnail.
Yeah.
But it shows that they don't handle very well, those cars.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. I mean, they don't sound very good either.
No.
The engine was kind of weak. And then with something better was the 82 Ford Capri 2.8 injection. That's more like it, sir.
Yeah.
You can spin the back tyres in though, just without any provocation whatsoever. I mean, the two things that strike me about it. One was that the brakes aren't very good.
No,
a lot of people,
Capri things.
a lot of people fit Princess brakes to those.
Yeah.
Which you can do.
Conversion to do.
Yeah. And the other thing is the gearbox. I could not find reverse.
Yeah, they're all right. No, you do have a problem.
I do. I got problem getting cars into reverse. It all happens all the time. We got a bit scared of that. Eventually, I just realised if you feel like you're going to break it, you just eventually find reverse.
Handle it.
You had to, yeah.
Man up.
Then the Mini Mayfair. The brakes on that were fantastic. I kept locking the brakes up. Mr. Franks and I driving around in that was hilarious. Like, I tried to out-accelerate a dust car, and I failed miserably because I only had 42 horsepower. It just got louder and louder and louder. MG ZS 180, fantastic.
Yeah.
Only problem with that is the suspension's really, really hard in it.
What they are.
Yeah,
cars,
exactly. Alfa Romeo 90, we'll have to sort of move on from that. All I can say is it's one of the rarest cars I've ever driven, but the Cherry Europe was even rarer than that. MG HS plug-in hybrid, not to say about that really. All the MG5 EV, that's fine. MG ZS 1 litre automatic facelift, that's actually a good car, those are pretty good. Skoda Karoq, that was not too bad. Kia Rio I sourced for a friend of mine, it's a 2017 one. They're really good cars, those. They're much better than like most of the other stuff on the road at the moment. Yeah. It's a shame Kia don't sell them anymore. In that one, you have a 1 litre 3-cylinder turbo. That's got a timing chain in it. Yeah. I mean, that's a really good car. Like, I'd probably recommend anything of that to anybody.
It's got a courtesy car at the minute, and it's a Kamiq.
Oh, it's got a Kamiq?
Yeah. Horrible.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think I'd want to drive one of those really. MG ZS 1 litre manual. That's the best type of ZS to buy. Actually, it's a 1 litre manual because you get the panoramic sunroof. Yeah. And actually, if you can get over the handling's not the best in those. Apart from that, it's a really good car. Renault Clio Mark IV. I don't know why it was even on trajectory release. Really, it was fine. Do not buy the 1.2 D4F engine without the turbo, because it is the slowest car in the world. Yeah. 0 to 60 in 16 seconds.
I'll blow that up within a week.
They're actually those engines, to be fair, are quite reliable. It's the one that came in 1996, those ones. And with a 60 valve handling. It was in this for Sandero and the Logan, it was in everything. It's just really slow. Yeah. Then the Volkswagen ID3, that was the most frustrating infotainment system I've ever used in my entire life. Was in the ID3. They drive okay, but yeah.
It's a Volkswagen. It's supposed to be.
I know. Suzuki Vitara 2018. That's quite good actually. I've driven a couple of those now. Yeah. It's actually a pretty decent car, to be honest. The S-Cross is very similar. It's got a bit more room in it, but the Vitara looks better. Drive okay actually. Then the Datsun 260Z. Those are pretty good. If you can actually reach the gear lever, I had a fixed seatbelt in it, and I couldn't reach the gear lever properly. Apart from that, it was great. I prefer the 260C, although it didn't have power steering, and that was a heavy old car to drive. It was a big old bus, that. So actually, there's far fewer of these, as we go to the future than there will at the start. The 1981 Vauxhall Chevette HSR. That was an absolute privilege to drive that. They are such rare, expensive cars.
They're funny to drive.
Yeah, you got a dogleg 5-speed Getrag manual in those. They have nothing whatsoever to do with a normal Chevette. They have nothing like it. Not the axles aren't the same. The bodywork's not the same. The engine's not the same. The gearbox isn't the same.
Everything's different.
It's just literally like a shell. Even that, it's modified to have an HSR. Yeah. It was crazy that. That's a very, very interesting car. 2023 MG5 EV. Not a lot to say about that, but honestly they're pretty good cars. It just depends if you want an electric estate car, because that's the only one. That's it. Yeah. The Porsche 911 996 in the snow in Edinburgh.
Good car.
That was scary. I actually almost crashed it.
Good.
And it wasn't because you think I didn't slide off the road going too fast or fishtail. I was just turning it around. I was going very low speed. And I just turned this way, and the car just didn't stop. I was heading for this, those stones.
Weight pushing it along.
It stopped, but I was a bit scary. I didn't crash it though. MG4. Actually, they're not bad. Those MG4's a decent enough car. Then we get into this year, and this is all cars from the same collection. Every single one of these owned by the same chap. The 1972 Jaguar E-Type Series 3. Yeah. If you can get some right shoes to drive one, they're fantastic. Yeah. Really good car. This has a 5-speed Tremec manual in it, which I recommend rather than the 4-speed. The Peugeot 504 Cabriolet, which when I first drove it, threatened to catch on fire, which wasn't too good. Sadly, what's happened with that car is it actually did catch on fire and it got burnt out. They're just trying to sort of rebuild it at the moment. It's a real shame that it burnt out. It wasn't actually the fuel injection which we thought it was the battery that did that. Then the Renault Caravelle 68, which again is a really beautiful old car. They're not very nice to drive, those Caravelles. They're very slow, and the gearbox is horrible because the gear it's in the back or something like that, and it's not very nice. It's such a pretty car though. I mean, I couldn't turn it down. And then the last episode we've done is the DS, which again I had problems with because I always have problems with cars like that. Mr. Coleman knows that. I'll explain in the video why, but a really nice, beautiful example of one. One thing I will say about that is I've driven that. I don't have to drive one again now.
No,
I don't want to.
Spent.
Yes, done it. Right, let's have a look at these. Right, okay. The oil cooler on the Pentastar V6. Yes. Puligaturi, Mr. Coleman. I heard the 2600 engine in the SD1 was detuned because it's more power than the V8. That is actually true.
That is correct.
Yeah, they had to lower the power output because it would compete with the V8. Because V8's only 155, isn't it? Yeah, I can't remember the power output in the 2600s now. I can't remember now. Dominic Chesterman, do you see smart cars as classic, future classic cars? No. Oh, Mr. Coleman doesn't. I don't really know. It's like this whole argument about what is a classic car. There is no answer to that question. There isn't an answer.
No, there isn't.
Absolutely not. Put me off because of the axis problems. Yeah, the axis is bad.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I don't want one of those personally. I have driven a second generation and a third generation Smart, and only the third generation was anyway good. The second generation was absolutely horrible to drive. Yeah. It had the nasty automated manual, isn't it? Yeah. It was awful. The
I call it like the national gearbox.
Yeah. The third generation was a Brabus, and that was all right, but I just don't like taking the front end off to like act as a bonnet. I think it's stupid. Because obviously the engine's at the back, but obviously the front you've got other things, so you have to like work out how to take it off, and it's a pain. Matthew Jones talking about the Get companion, but it's a bongo. Is that a petrol bongo? Incidentally, can we talk about it? So nice as I often drive a 2001 Saxo. Yeah, well they're all right. They're like a 106. I mean, they're a bit cramped, and some of them are quite slow. Agent Barry says we got thrown out. Yeah, we got thrown out of the country park.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing anything. Mr. Coleman was but we left. Agent Barry says I had my ex-lady friend had a Saxo whilst I had a Maestro and a Capri. A little bit different from the Saxo. I thought a Capri and the Maestro. Yeah, a bit different. Everyone press a like on the chat. Yes, like on the chat is very good. That's very helpful. Donald Jeffrey says I did my best to support Rover. I had a 214 i8 valve. Oh my gosh, that's like a really basic one. That would probably be one with no wood in the side. Yeah. I think the 8 valve ones of those. I think what a carb or something. No. It's
a single point injection.
Yeah, you could get a 214S with a carb on it. I think the only 1.4 cases with a carb on it, I think was that. That was it. Apart from some of the Metros. 216 Honda engine, I've had 3 of those. And a 45 we can't talk about, excellent. Good things about MGs now. The dealer support's not great. I mean, one of these days we might have a talk about that, because that's a whole subject Mr. Coleman and I know about from one of the actual dealers that talked about that. So yeah, they are making good sales figures. We'll do a top 10 best-selling cars of July 2024 at some point. I'll record that and we'll have a talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh dear, here we go. I actually know the person who owns that smart car now.
So do I.
Yeah, we know who owns that. He's probably watching this right now. Paul Ligato says choose between the smart car or Bob the trailer tent. Oh, I don't. That's a hard choice, isn't it, Mr.
I would actually have the caravan, to be honest.
I don't know. Like, that's really hard.
Well, the thing is, I've always said about caravanning holidays that it is just abject misery. Anything to do with camping, caravan, and anything like that. But I would rather go for a week of abject misery than work or own a smart.
I don't know. I'm not massively fond of like camping and sort of
No, right.
caravanning. No, my lady wife quite likes it. I'm not really fond of it.
I like creature comforts. I like the toilet that flushes. I don't want to wake up in the morning damp.
You actually got walls and a bed and things like that. It's probably better. I think on that now we covered like every single episode of True Jacket Reviews. What did you talk about anyway? Did somebody actually ask me about something? I might have sort of missed something. I remember maybe that was it.
Excuse me.
Let's go back here and just see. No, I should have covered everything. Right. If you want to, then you can. Oh, Mr. Colburn. Oh dear. Frazzle faces the ultimate misery from Mr. Colburn, the smart car towing the caravan.
The smart car wouldn't tow the caravan, it's too heavy.
Yeah, you can't tow anything with a smart car.
You can't put a tow bar in a smart car.
No, can't do anything. And of that, I think that's enough. We've been going quite a long time. We've been going longer than expected. I think it's because we've been talking about every single episode of True Jacket Reviews. But because we don't make many anymore at all, you look at the sort of dates of the upload. And in 2023, we actually.
Thank you, Simone.
In 2023, we didn't make any at all.
Yeah.
It's only because we listed the office collection really close to where we live. I was able to do them. Apart from that, we wouldn't have been able to do it. But that's just fine. Anyway, I think that's it. I don't know what the battery. My phone's going to last much longer. So
yes,
Mr. Coleman needs to go to work at some an early hour in the morning as well. 4:30. So thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching, all of you.
See everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman, for being part of the chat this evening.
And we
shall see you again soon. Hopefully in something that's a bit less shambolic.
Yes.
I can't be going to do. Bye everybody.
Ciao, mate.